Good afternoon, or good evening, I guess, everyone. Welcome to our special council meeting for Tuesday, November 25th. Welcome to the members in the gallery as well. So we'll start off the meeting, call to order at 5 p.m. And first of all, if we're looking at our agenda, we need an adoption of the agenda, and I'll do that through consensus. Is everybody okay with the agenda the way it stands? Yep. Okay, so the agenda is approved. Point number 2, special council meeting business, and that's consideration of the 2025 operating and capital budgets. And with that, I'll turn it over to CAO Williams to do just the capital budget. It still says operating on mine. Oh, 26. There we go. Got it. I'll let CEO Williams take it from here.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and good evening, Council. Happy to present the 2026 capital budget this evening. I'm going to turn over to Director Lindeman, and her and I are going to walk you through these first initial slides.
Thank you, and welcome back. Day 2. So again, here's our budget timeline. We've gone through the first day. Today we are doing an introduction of the proposed capital budget, and then tomorrow we'll wrap it up, bringing both operating and capital budget discussions together. So tonight we're going to go through our capital priorities. We'll hand that back over to CAO for that part, and then we will do an introduction of our capital plans, and then discuss our 2026 capital projects, where we go through each project individually. I will pass back over to CEO.
Thank you, Sheena. So as you've seen before, we're building this budget on the 3 themes of the corporate plan: infrastructure renewal, fiscal resilience, and long-term planning. And we also added asset management as the 4th. Is that something that, as mentioned, doesn't quite exist yet, but we're closer than we ever have been in terms of presenting council with what our capital needs are versus our current resources, and some of that you'll see very shortly. The outcomes for budget 2026 across operating and capital, even though most of these are capital focused, that we continue addressing our water loss and I&I through our targeted programs and funding efforts, renewing infrastructure related, but infrastructure is a broad term that includes more than just water and sanitary infrastructure. Maintaining reserves, not necessarily adding to them, but not dipping into them any more than what was established at the end of fiscal 2025. Reducing our debt, and then improving road maintenance and community safety. Just a note from a previous slide that you did see our benchmarking with our closest comparative communities. We do a lot of benchmarking, but for the debt and reserves, most pertinent perhaps to the capital budget consideration, our debt position is much higher than average as we work towards 2031 and that repayment of the outstanding OFL debenture, along with some other items in there. Our restricted reserves, again, much below where we'd like them to be. While we won't be adding to our reserve levels in 2026 as projected, not adding, we do plan on keeping them stable, and then with net contributions ideally occurring by 2027. So with that, the first introduction of our capital renewal plans. These are within the council budget folder that was shared last week with you all, and this is a summary led by Director Lindeman that the directors had a lot of work and input into, both in the previous days but really throughout the last 2 years, and as we try to work towards a more robust asset management program. So Sheena, back to you.
Perfect. So as CEO mentioned, you guys were given a detailed listing of all of our equipment, fleet, facilities in your big budget folder. So we're not going to go through that in detail today, but I wanted to go through just a summarized version of that, just to show you what will be coming up over the next 5 years. So these plans are based on our current inventory of equipment, fleet, and facilities. Each item, when it's purchased, is given an estimated lifespan, and based on that, on our asset management policy, once it reaches that lifespan, it would appear on this plan. So that doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be replaced in that exact year, but it just gives us a best guess estimate of when these things will be coming up. So looking at the slide on the screen, you'll see that based on this information, we're looking at just over 3 million in asks over the next few years. And then it jumps to 5 million for 2030 and 2031. And so just as a reminder though, this is just equipment, fleet, and facilities. This is without looking at any infrastructure such as pipes, roads, and reservoirs, that kind of thing. So over the next 5 years, sorry, we're looking at just over $20 million in those three categories. And then again, this kind of explains all of that. So our asset management program is still underway. Obviously, these are just best guess estimates based on useful life. We are looking to get condition information and all of that put in there as well. Ideal replacement dates, obviously can't afford to follow this timeline. As I mentioned, $20 million over the next 5 years. So we need to start prioritizing and planning what will be essential coming through. And then this slide, so this is just fleet and machinery and equipment. And it just is kind of beginning the process of understanding what we should be putting away for future replacement. So listed here, like I said, fleet, equipment, and fire apparatus. If we take the total replacement cost of these items and divide that by the anticipated lifespan, we're given what we should be putting away annually in order to replace that asset at the end of its useful life. So based on this information, these three categories, we should be putting away roughly 1.3 million annually. Again, this does not include any infrastructure or facilities, so purely equipment and fleet. So by comparison though, we currently transfer $486,000 annually. So just a slight deficit there. Moving on now, so we'll look through each department area, kind of give you an idea over the next 5 years what kind of asks we'll be bringing forward. And I will start things off with corporate services. Our equipment capital plan. So within IT, we have a few things over the next 4 years. And then, so those are mainly, servers, which are replaced every 5 years. So we have 2 sets of main servers and then 2 sets of backup servers. And those are on a rotational basis. And then our switches that we replaced actually in 2025 will come to end of life in 2030. So those are in there. And then in finance, we don't normally have any capital asks, but we will be having a full financial software ask coming up in the next couple of years. Our current system, we've been given notice that it is end of life and we'll have to move. There's no option other than to move. In initial talks with other municipalities, we are looking anywhere in the $750,000 to $1 million range to switch softwares. I did put that over 2 years because it is a lengthy process to switch softwares. So we will begin looking at the end of 2026 and then with the hopes of starting in 2027. Moving on to infrastructure, I will pass over to Director Pedro.
Good evening, Council. So we'll go through a few areas in the Infrastructure Services Division. First being fleet. So what we'll see here is that the light-duty fleet typically is for replacement of pickup trucks or some SUVs that we do have in our fleet. We do look at replacing 2 of those each year, and so this forecast speaks to some of those needs. And then on the heavy-duty side, fortunately, based on the forecast, we're looking at 2 major years, 2027 and 2031, and that's largely related to some larger dump truck related replacements. Moving on to the equipment capital plan, we do have quite a few pieces of equipment that will need replacement over the next few years. So we are looking at about $1.5 million in that area. They unfortunately are larger pieces of equipment, things such as the loader, wheeled excavator that is quite dated and far from functional at this point, and then some sewer camera replacements that are going to be required. And then as the CAO alluded to and Director Linderman there, we are working on our asset management program. A large part of that is forecasting the infrastructure replacement program. So that would be things like roads, sidewalks, curb and gutter, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, water mains. And so what this forecast is looking at is projecting out based on our assessment so far, what that expectation is over the next 5 years. So as we can see, there's quite a big ask. 2026 being the 57th Avenue from Highway 27 to Shannon Drive, which we've mentioned previously to council. So this is just a rough forecast based on the information we have so far. This could change, so the dates could move, or roads could get moved up and down the price based on their deterioration over the years. But, yeah, I will pass it along to Director Lapointe.
All right, on the community services side of things, the equipment plan totals are roughly around $750,000 over that 5-year period. You'll notice that Parks has a tool cat replacement in both 2027 and 2028. That's why you see the bump there, and a Kubota in 2030. And the Sportsplex is scheduled to replace the rink boards in 2030. Facility capital plan side of things, you can see the bulk of the facility improvements are centered in the Sportsplex. The roof will be changed out in 3 phases, with the auxiliary first in 2027, the curling club in 2029, and the main slated for 2031. The ice slab is currently planned for 2031 as well. That's why you see that big number there, the $5 million in 2031. And of note, as part of the Centennial Park improvements, we are targeting to construct a larger change room concept in 2030. And additionally, the former fire hall roof is also in need of replacement, and we're looking to make that happen in 2028. With that, I'll turn it over to Protective Services.
Thank you. So to start looking at our fire apparatus capital plan, the caveat, one advantage that we do have with our current agreement is that the town of Olds is a co-owner on most fire apparatus with the County of Mountain View. You can see that there's some staged needs in the upcoming years, the closest being 2028, where our one pumper truck is due for replacement. The one issue that we've seen with fire apparatus is that the price in the last 4 years has more than doubled, and the delivery times have quadrupled. So right now, if you walked into a manufacturer with a suitcase full of money, you would be 4 years before you'd see that apparatus delivered to you. So some of the things that we're working on is how we can prolong our fleet to the maximum potential. And then we have to look at what procuring new replacement apparatus looks like as far as getting it in a timely fashion at the best cost. When we look at our equipment capital plan, it's varied in the next few years. There are some larger ticket items that we're looking at as far as for fire apparatus, or fire equipment, I should say. There's been a few things that have been long-standing items that have been bumped due to a lack of need, simply from the equipment is still functional and operational, but we are running into end-of-life things such as hydraulic rescue tools. We've had success over many years with them, but they are now to the point where they're non-serviceable. So if they fail, then we'll be in a position where we don't have them. And then again, the normal life cycle on multiple capital items such as thermal imaging cameras and equipment-related things like air compressors for filling breathing air. And then the one lone municipal enforcement related expenditure for next year, 2027, is replacement of a laser speed gun. So those are our equipment capital. As far as facility, we're looking for in 2026, next year, looking at, as you'll see presented, LED upgrade and boiler at the fire hall. In 2027, part of our staged approach of expansion and modernization of our fire training facility. That's here on location. The RCMP, we're looking at a new roof. The membrane on the roof of the RCMP detachment is end of life at over 20 years, and it's been told that it needs to be replaced. 2028, the RCMP, one of the pieces for expansion and continued function of the detachment as it stands, is looking to replace the garage structure there that was moved from the last RCMP detachment. There's modernization and operational efficiencies that are required there for modernization. And in 2029, we are anticipating that we will need to start looking at the roof membrane replacement of the main fire hall structure as well, is that there are signs that it's showing the stages of end of life already, and that's a fairly big expense. So total cost in the next 5 years, about $1.5 million. And that's all for me.
Thank you for your presentations. I'll look towards council now for questions. Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor Daly, and through you to Councillor, or Director Linderman. Sorry, Director Linderman. Can you please help me understand the 1 million asked for the financial software? I understand that specialized software are always more expensive. Can't be using QuickBooks Pro here, but that just seems like a lot, $1 million. Is that also including the staffing costs to move all these documents over? And just maybe walk me through where that $1 million is going.
No, that is purely software, and of course, with the software comes all the training. When we switched to our current system, it took us just about 2 years to transfer over. So it is a lot of time on the software side of things. The company's in training and moving everything over for us. They are the ones that do all the implementation and move it over. So all of that's contracted. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Daly. I have a couple of questions, but I'll just take them one at a time. To piggyback on Councillor Taylor's comment relative, the question relative to the finance. So we've just recently updated or installed our work order and our AP system, I think, and I don't know, maybe tied in with that as purchasing. So is that all part of then this replacement that's going to happen for the $1 million, or is that standalone and separate? Thank you.
Those right now are standalone systems already, and they will continue to be standalone. We will look to something obviously that integrates the two, all of them together within our financial system for sure.
Supplemental or another question?
No, another question.
Okay, go ahead.
See, I'm honest. Okay. Through you to, the Director of Protective Services. We were just at AB Munis, and I think we've had this discussion before around aging out of equipment, and I'm talking about the vehicles. And I think there was a resolution, can't remember it exactly, but there was a resolution at AB Munis to look to see, to extend some of that renewal of equipment. So tied in with that, how feasible likely is it that we find that unicorn vehicle, you know, the one that's only driven on Sundays to and from church? How feasible likely is it we find that type of a vehicle to replace, upgrade some of our existing vehicles down the road?
Good question. So as far as the resolution at Alberta Munis, as far as any kind of political advocacy to change replacement, it's not a government mandated date that's set on the replacement of fire apparatus. It is ultimately decided by municipalities, but the implication is that the insurance underwriters is a group that essentially rates and scores communities on their fire suppression abilities. And so all of the people, residents and or businesses, the fire insurance rates that they pay are based off of that rating. And so if a municipality was to choose not to follow the replacement of keeping the first responding, and we don't have to keep all the trucks at the same age, the first responding pumper truck has to be 15 years old or less. So it only has to be one, and it's the first responding. And so that's the replacement schedule that we're looking at, trying to make sure that we maximize the life so that, you know, that we only have one truck that's newer than 15 years. But ultimately, if the municipality was to decide not to follow that, the potential is that then you could see substantial increases to fire insurance rates throughout the community. Does that equate to a lot of dollars for residents? Not so much, but where you really see impact is in your commercial and industrial sector, where the increases could be tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands, based on the business. So that there is some risk to it for that, but that's where the story comes. As far as finding the unicorn truck, obviously this is across the board. There's not just the town of Olds suffering with this. Every community, including the large cities, are having a hard time affording apparatus. So the effort is there to get a lot leaner. There's not going to be so many options placed on fire apparatus. It's going to go right back to the basic roots where buying kind of stuff off the shelf, if you will, is more economical. And hopefully the time frames are a little shorter by buying cookie cutter things as opposed to customized specifically for your organization.
Thank you. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and to Director Andrew. Pardon me if I missed it somewhere in all this paperwork that we've received in the last couple of weeks. The apparatus, how much of that is paid for from Mountain View County, or do they, I mean, I think they pay for some, but so this first on 2028, the 675, would they be paying half of that, or that's what we pay and they pay 675?
Yes, so the bad news is that is the half. So it's actually double that. So yes, the agreement that we have with Mountain View County is that for the majority of our apparatus, the cost share is typically 50-50, which is an excellent arrangement that we have and share resources. And yeah, so the numbers that you're seeing there would be the town of Old's responsibility for the half that we would be on the hook for. So we're talking $1 million plus for every truck pretty much now.
That's really not what I wanted to hear,
No.
but that's okay.
Anybody else with a question? Councillor Wilson?
So just thank you, through you to the Director, Corporate Services. When you say, so put away, like you're talking put away into reserves, right? Like that's when you say put away, like,
Correct.
yeah.
CEO Williams, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. And Sheena has a couple more slides left before we get into the individual project papers for 2026. But back to that, ideal slide that over the next 5 years, $20 million in addition to what underground and roads and sidewalks will be. Obviously, we can't afford that, as mentioned, but prioritization, ongoing condition assessment to see what could be staggered and what has to go first. That's where council then gets into how much money is available and how we fund those priorities. And as you've been told many times, and I'm sure you understand fully, it's only property taxes, reserves, or debt that we have at our disposal for funding these priorities. So this is what over the next few months and probably through 2026, we hope to have these conversations. So even though we won't like what's coming down the pipe in the 5-year window, at least we can have honest conversations and be better able to assess, decide, and then explain why we're making some decisions, foregoing others, and having those tough conversations. And it's not just the town of Olds that's facing this; it's across the board. I encourage you to look at the Minister of Municipal Affairs comments yesterday with the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce most recently, if you get an idea of where the province sits on this as well. So, but with that, if there's more questions on the 5-year plans, because you will see them much more in the coming months, I'll turn it back to Sheena to talk about why we're here this evening.
I just have one question. With the announcement of the federal budget, what was that, a week or two ago? And one of the item lines on there was infrastructure funding for municipalities. Now, I'm not sure whether we've looked into that or not, but I believe there was billions of dollars that were set aside in that federal budget. Now, I'm not sure whether we'd be eligible for that, but that's something that hasn't been considered yet in these budget talks that we're talking about here tonight. Is that correct?
That is correct. We haven't considered that, but also the federal budget, which I believe now will be delivered in the fall, even though their fiscal is April 1 to March 31st. Generally, when we see a federal announcement with a federal budget, you're looking 8 to 12 months until the regulations or the programs are released, and then another 12 to 24 months for adjudication of that process. So Not saying, I don't want to preempt what it will be, whether it be big city focused or focused on high growth areas, but we haven't had a lot of success with the big ticket federal grants outside of what we did with the energy efficiency side at the pool and at the smaller extent the med shed. But we'll be watching eagerly as this whole capital renewal piece, as I'll call it, it doesn't just involve taxes, grants, reserves. We have to get a little creative as well, whether that be through partnerships, through leveraging third-party nonprofit support, which have access to a different funding pool, to sponsorships, as we talked about over our facilities. There's a lot of small and medium things I think we need to look at here. Now, a $10 million federal grant, that would be exceptionally good news, but we also can't just hope we get that. But to your question, the announcement has been made. There has been no details, and we don't expect that until, I would say, late spring at the earliest. So,
Thank you for that. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, through you to CO Williams. But with our federal grant funding or application, we still have to go directly through the province of Alberta before we can't apply directly to the federal government anyway. So we're sort of at a double mercy. Whoever decides to adjudicate our application is where we might fall, and if we're even a lucky recipient of any grant funding, correct?
yeah, and through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct, Councillor Blatz, that with Bill, I think it was Bill 20, late last year, we have to get provincial approval for any federal funding over $100,000. So we had to do this once this year with the MedShed funding. It was $200,000, so it only went to the minister. It took a few weeks. It was relatively expedient. Anything over $1 million, I believe, is a threshold, has to go to cabinet, which cabinet only meets X amount of times per year and only obviously has so much business. So that's an untested one yet. So we'll see how that goes.
Thank you. Good question. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. Through you to the CEO. Just, I know this is a budget discussion, not an asset management discussion, but I know we want to get out of here at a reasonable time as well. But like you talked about prioritization, we have limited dollars, we have one taxpayer, and we got a huge ask. And I will say, life was a lot simpler before we had this asset management plan. But I'm just, will there be eventually a prioritization or ranking, like a risk matrix to go along with this that says, okay, with the Sportsplex roof as an example, whether it be safety, environmental, or structurally, this is a must-do now versus something to help us do that prioritization? Just looking for a short little blurb right now. Thanks.
Yeah, good question. Through you, Mayor Daly. Yes, we will have a prioritization. Now, when it comes to risk, for example, some things, but very few things are pretty evident. Like you'll see with Director Pedro's 57th Avenue ask this evening, or next year with the Sportsplex roof, we're pretty confident those are urgent items because the consequence of those failing are significant. The harder piece is going to be when it comes down to the when everything looks like it's a good idea and it's not that clear to you. But you will see prioritization, and I think in these early years of asset management plans, it'll be easy to pick from, for example, because the risk will be high and the consequences intolerable. But as we go on, yeah, choosing between equipment, fleet, buildings, roads, it'll be tougher. Short answer is yes.
No other questions? I think turn it back to you then. Continue on.
Thank you. So for this evening session, we will focus solely on the capital budget moving forward. Today, the capital budget being proposed is $3.37 million. The primary focus of the 2026 capital budget is a continuation of the water loss and inflow and infiltration strategy, a return to our regular municipal improvement program, and improvements to the Sportsplex as part of our 10-year renewal plan. As CEO did mention, there are only a few ways that we are able to fund our capital budget. So here is how the proposed capital budget is being funded. We have a transfer from operating of $530,750. This is coming from utilities, capital renewal, utilities within the operating budget. So this is through the utility rates that this money is transferred to capital. of $355,000. And then our water meter replacement program, that is that $3.50 that's on the utility bill, moving over to capital to replace those water meters. Under grants, we have 2.1 million, and that is coming through our local government fiscal framework, which is LGFF. It is $1.4 million in 2026. Our Canada Community Building Fund, which is $624,000. And the Municipal Climate Change Action Center, should the LED lighting be approved at the fire hall, we would apply for a grant through there for $50,000. And then the rest coming from reserves, we have 488,000. And then under other, this is funds that we would receive from the county for the sportsplex and the trade-in of any equipment that we're selling and purchasing new. So that's $218,000. Just a quick little type up here on reserves. We have two kinds of reserves. We have restricted reserves and unrestricted reserves. Restricted reserves are put away specifically for a specific purpose. Within those restricted reserves, we have capital and operating reserves. And then your unrestricted reserves are typically funds that are used in emergency circumstances. These are funds that are is funded through our operating surplus or deficit every year, so that comes and goes in that unrestricted reserve. And then here is just a breakdown of our capital reserves. So this is a projection I have for 2025. So the December 31, 2024 numbers are from our financial statements. We had $2.8 million in capital reserves. The increases and decreases are what I'm projecting. For the end of December, we will have $2.45 million in that capital reserve. And that is the presentation. Now we will move right into the actual capital budget. Can we bring that up? Yeah. And so typically we just go through this line by line essentially. Each director will speak to their capital budget requests. So we will start with fire services, and I will ask Director Andrew to talk to you about LED lighting.
Thank you. So the LED lighting project is a wholesale changeover from the traditional fluorescent lights that the building was constructed with at the time of its build. The reason why we're proposing this is that we are seeing failure at a rapid rate of ballasts and light fixtures, and these are a non-serviceable item. So essentially we cannot replace the ballasts any longer simply because of the green shift. So they've stopped making these types of lights. So as it was mentioned, we are looking to apply for a grant funding that would cover half the cost. The quoted value of a replacement of the entire structure was $70,000. So we'd be looking for half of that amount potentially. And once we get that done, we will see some energy savings, obviously, by the transition. But ultimately, it's a maintenance piece. We have a building that's starting to go dark on the inside. So I don't have. Are we fielding questions as we go, or do you want me to do all of my stuff?
Yeah, we'll do questions at each individual item.
Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley. And through you to Director Andrew. Just want to make sure, are we talking replacement of the bulbs themselves to LED, replacing like bypassing the ballast using 120 volt replacements, or are we talking replacement of the entire fixture itself to LED? Thank you.
Yeah, so this would be a complete replacement. We looked at the options of just replacing with the LED bulbs. That wouldn't qualify us for the grant, and it also doesn't solve the problem that it's the ballasts that we're seeing fail. So we would replace a bunch of bulbs, and then we'd still be in the same boat. So that's the issue that we're having.
Supplemental, go ahead.
Thank you. I do believe there's 120 volt LED replacement bulbs that bypass the ballast itself. Ones you can just insert in. Are those being considered?
To be honest, at this point, our building maintenance supervisor had consulted with the electricians about what all of the best options were, and so the proposal to them was that this was the most economical and long-standing repair of that situation. So I can't say that it wasn't considered for sure. I'd like to believe that previously a lot of those kind of conversations were had, as I did direct, to find what's the short-term solution, what's the cheap solution, what's, you know, all of those, and they came back to me with this one. So I can't speak to it specifically, but I would like to believe that yes, that was done.
Councillor Church.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to the director. Quick question about this grant, the MCCAC grant. Director Linderman phrased it as we would apply for the grant if we approve this. Is the grant a sure thing, or is this something that's a maybe?
Maybe let Director Linderman answer that with her experience with it.
No, it is not a sure thing. We would apply. We have had luck in the past through MCAC is what it's called, but it's not for sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Cook.
Through the chair to Director Andrew. I understand that it says we're unsure and it's difficult to calculate what the actual energy savings would be, but even just based off of the manufacturer estimates for the energy savings, did you have any dollar values that you might affix to energy savings on something like this?
I don't have a specific dollar value I can give you. Part of the process is that in a contract that would be potentially awarded, they have to do a light engineering study, and that's part of the grant application is they have to physically calculate what you have from existing infrastructure and then compare it to what's being proposed, and then they give you the exact energy consumption and the hourly cost. Given this is the nature of what we do at the fire station, that there's lights on to a certain degree all the time, 24 hours a day to a certain extent, I think that we would see some substantial power savings because it's certainly one of the ones that is a frequent use for energy for sure.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and I apologize to the group, but I have a question for the Director Linderman, and then I have a question for Director Andrew. And just, if I've missed it, I apologize. We have a $3.37 million capital ask. Are we fully funded through the various means of grant plus reserves plus other, or do we have a shortfall? If I missed that, I apologize.
No, there is no shortfall. So the funding is those four
Right, yeah.
options I provided. Yeah.
Okay. And if I may, a quick question for Director Andrew, unless there's somebody else. Okay.
Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. So if we don't get the grant, does that mean that we pay the full 70 and this is something that we have to do? Or do we wait till next year to see if we do get a grant, so it's a split 35-35?
So as far as a have to, I mean, since this budget paper was prepared, we've had 6 fixtures fail. So it's to that point where it's happening. Whether it's funded capital in or we have to continue to use operating budget to repair them as they fail, then that would be the option. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have an option to leave fixtures out. It's an unsafe work environment. So we do have to pay substantially more for that because every time we have to have the electricians come to change them out, it takes time and extra money. I mean, there are possibilities. If we don't get the grant, then could you split it? The answer is yes, you could. It may not be the most effective or efficient, but there's certainly ways around it.
Supplemental?
Yes, supplemental. So what's the life expectancy of these? Did somebody already ask that? Like, are we looking at like 20 years or 10 years, or what is a life expectancy of these new LED lights? Did we already ask that? No, okay, good.
That was through Director Andrew.
I believe in the product literature, I'd looked on the new, what's being proposed, and I believe it was 10-year warranty on it. But with any of these electronics, I wouldn't count on 10 years in a day. But yeah, so.
Thank you. Counselor Wilson.
Through you to the director, you addressed the question around, I guess, run to failure. These bulbs and ballasts, they're in the vehicle storage bay, or are they throughout the entire department building, or are they just in the vehicle storage bays? Thanks.
No, this is throughout the entire building. So we actually, the fixtures in the office space are the ones that are failing at a faster rate. The ones in the apparatus bay actually they're a little different fixture, but we end up moving around to try to minimize so we don't have too burnt out in any general location is the game of the day for now.
Thank you. Any further questions? I think we got some light on the subject. Thank you, Director Andrew. Haha. Okay, we'll carry on.
Okay, so now we got some light on the subject. We're gonna warm you up on this one with the boiler replacement. So in the same kind of concept, we have one large commercial boiler in the fire station that feeds all domestic and hot water use for out in the apparatus bays. And again, it's the same thing. It's an end-of-life piece. This one is a tough one. We've had a few close calls where we've started to have some leaks and failures of the pumps in it. And just generally because of the nature of what it is and the nature of what's in our water with minerals, the concern is that one day we're going to come into a warm water flood of the facility because it blows a hole in it. So from my understanding, this was discussed with the plumber and the facility maintenance people, is that it's on borrowed time. And so again, it also does apply or qualify for the energy grant. So if we were successful, again, we would apply for it, and it would cover half the cost. And we are proposing that it's more economical and cheaper for us to go with a tankless on-demand hot water system, which is the same system we put into the RCMB detachment 2 years ago. And it's more efficient and less likely to fail in a catastrophic way. So same situation, but that's where we're at with the boiler.
Good, thank you, Director Andrew. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley, and through you to Director Andrew. Yeah, I believe it's kind of a no-brainer to want to be replacing these things before they blow up and cause a catastrophic leak. My concern is just on the maintenance on these on-demand tanks. I presume that this is going to be coming with a very rigorous maintenance schedule. Keep this in good working order, just so that we're not as reactive in these kind of repairs.
Yeah, very valid point. In fact, that was a conversation had with the plumbers, that they felt that a tankless system is more friendly to a maintenance regime where you can isolate it and you can run descaler through the combustion chamber in the storage tank. So it actually has a potential that it would last longer than a traditional tank that gathers sediment. So that is promising. And from what we've seen with the RCMP, changing that over, their system has been essentially flawless since it was installed 2 years ago. So hopefully that's the same expected results we'd get there.
Thank you. CAO Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. And just a note on the last two items, when we talk asset management and then funding the asset needs, when it comes to smaller asks like LED lighting and boiler replacements, ideally we wouldn't spend 25, 30 minutes talking about $70,000, $90,000 in a $3.5 million ask. But that's the way our system's set up now. So ideally we would have, dedicated funding, ideally from operating transfers to the reserves, with some, obviously, things like grant chasing going on. But we wouldn't have to adjudicate whether the firefighters work in the dark or when we replace a boiler, because that's not the best use of council's time. So not that, it's not a slight by any means. It's just where we hope to get to is that, we just agree that some things have to happen and we fund those without having to debate them. But as it stands right now, we don't have a reserve funded system, but hence why these smaller asks are coming to you. So they're all valuable, but even the $30,000 asks do add up. So just FYI.
Thank you for that, CAO Williams. Any further questions? I'll turn it back to Director Andrew.
Thank you. So the last item to discuss is the thermal imaging camera replacement. We have a variety of these. We have 4 in circulation, one camera per frontline fire apparatus. This is essential equipment for firefighters to be able to see in smoke and fire environments. They're used on a very regular basis. Unfortunately, it is like a piece of IT equipment, is that it's a little more robust than a laptop computer, because considering it's going to a superheated environment with smoke, and it's kicked and dropped and banged with everything that they do. So the reality is on the thermal camera is that, yes, we have 4 of them, so to lose one is not necessarily the big issue, but the truth is that we're trying to do a life cycle replacement. And if we push this down the road, this was actually pushed forward from last year that it was requested. And then what ends up is next year, we're going to end up coming back asking for 2, because we've had them spread out at smaller investments over a bigger period of time, and then we're going to start having to stack them again and catch up from that port. So, you know, $12,000 is not a small amount of money by any means, but it again is a vital piece of equipment for firefighters.
Good, thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley, and through you to Director Andrew. Like, infrared technology has gotten a lot better over the years, a lot cheaper. I'm just going from those truck-mounted ones to handhelds to little ones that attach to my phone. Want to know, has there been a cost reduction in the years that we've been kicking this can down the road from previous years? Is this technology getting cheaper, or is this more specialized infrared technology kind of staying level? Thanks.
Yeah, the first thermal imaging camera that we purchased with the Olds Fire Department was in the mid-90s, and it came at a cost of $55,000 for a single unit. So the price has come down. That the 12 is, that's about kind of industry standard, so it doesn't matter what brand you buy, you're kind of in that range. Now, I can appreciate that every once in a while you'll see in Canadian Tire there'll be a sale for a thermal imaging camera, and it's only $400. Unfortunately, there's a substantial difference in the operational capability and function of a commercial, product versus one that's intended for firefighting, and so that is unfortunately the difference. And there's certainly a lot to be said that when we buy things for the fire department, it costs more because they paint it red and say it's for fire, so then they put a premium on the price, but they are certainly more robust. But we haven't seen substantial discounts in quite some time.
Thank you. Any further questions? Well, at this point, I think we've got a great picture of all the hot spots over in protective services, so thank you. All right. Turn it over to Director Linderman for the next topic area.
Thank you. So next on the capital budget is the fleet replacement program, and this is run through our fleet management policy. So we don't have a budget sheet for that because it is driven through that policy, which was approved by council last year. We are open to questions on it, but if not, we can move on to the mechanic bay. And Adrian is up, or sorry, Director Pedro.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure mine will be as exciting as Director Andrew. So our first request here is to continue the progress that we've seen in our mechanic function. And so we hired our mechanic in June of this year, and he's been busy working on what we'll call the light duty fleet for the town. And in that process, we've already seen a dramatic reduction in the amount of R&M that we've spent and since he got hired. And so what we're looking to do next year is just to improve the facility and to get the appropriate tools to be able to facilitate heavy duty repairs. And so the bulk of this request is going to be in a heavy duty lift. And so that's required to lift some of the heavier equipment that we have. So something like the tandem dump trucks, or we could even lift something like the grader if needed. And then also with these upgrades in mind, expanding the function itself to include other departments such as protective services and branching what we can do internally. any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Go ahead.
Thank you,
Councilor
Mayor,
Creech.
and through you. So you'd be able to actually help Director Andrew with his trucks if you had this type of equipment in your mechanic bay?
More or less. There's always going to be something like the ladder truck, for example, that's just too large or perhaps too specialized for us to service internally. However, the majority of the fleet we could likely do internally with that function. Now, that being said, we only have one position in the mechanic role, so you'll see in our business plan that we do have a projected addition to that role in 2027, just to account for the workload that we're anticipating there.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll ask you to continue.
All right, this is our most humble request. We are looking to add some crosswalk lights on 54th Street at 53rd Avenue. It is the connection into Hartman Green there. It is quite busy, and so what we've observed over the years is that 54th Street itself is quite a high volume road. And of course, during the school hours there's a lot of pedestrian traffic that crosses the road there, and visibility is poor, particularly with vehicles parking on either side of the road. And so we're just looking to increase the safety of that intersection.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Just a comment, I traveled that road for many years, and the sun rising in the morning and setting in the evening, and it is a dangerous crosswalk there for sure. So I appreciate this request. No questions? All right, continue. Thank you.
All right, so this is a request for what's called a rock screen, and essentially it is a large metal frame where we can adjust the grade distances, and allows us to screen material put through it. And so it's purely a manual process. It's not what you would typically see, say, on a gravel pit or another site. Just allows us to dump material, and it will take out any of the large rock or any material that we don't want in that product. This is something that we've observed over the years. We've spent a lot of times manually taking out rocks or garbage or other things that have been in the material we're trying to use. And so this is just one of those tools that can help make that process more efficient.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daly. Through you to Director Bader. I presume catching these larger foreign objects will reduce maintenance costs. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Not so much maintenance costs. So it strictly just improves the material quality that we're using. So for example, on a utility dig, we'll excavate the area, we'll bring that material back to the shop. Largely it's reusable material, but it does contain a lot of what we'll call deleterious substances in it. And so we want to reuse that material instead of purchasing new material. And so it requires going through it and picking out the stuff that can't be used as backfill. So not so much.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, through you to the director. Yeah, so you've addressed, and I'm just curious where we would use it. So you've addressed one potential use with utility digs. Where else would we do it? If we're working on flower beds, perhaps, and we're recycling topsoil? Like I know you mentioned that in the request for a decision, but just wondering how and where else this would apply.
So it could be used for really anything. There is a limitation to how small you can sift through with this machine. Something like topsoil is better suited to an actual sieve. And so that's a bigger industrial mechanized unit there. This would be good for clay, any sort of pit run material that we would remove or obtain
Thank you. Any further questions? All right, I turn it back to you, Director Pedro.
Thank you. So moving on to our municipal improvement program. This is the noted 57th Avenue infrastructure replacement program. So we are looking to do this project next year. As the CAO alluded to, and if council recalls that image that we shared at orientation, this is the section of sanitary line that is literally falling apart. It is in danger of collapsing. So there is really no choice at this point but to prioritize it for replacement. As with all infrastructure projects, we do consider the associated infrastructure in the area. So with this particular road, there is 2 water lines in that area as well. Both of those are 50-ish years old, so those would have to be replaced as well. And because we're digging up the entire road, we would address the storm sewer sidewalks, curb and gutter, and asphalt replacement as well. So it is a fairly small section of road, but it is quite a robust project, hence the large cost.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. To Director Pedro. It shows that this is expected to have a $645,000 grant addition. Usually we've been seeing matching grants. Is this a high likelihood that those grants would come through?
I will turn that over to Director Lindeman.
Thanks. So this grant is the local government fiscal framework. So that is a for sure grant that we get every year through the provincial government.
And so if it wasn't used on this project, we would still receive those funds?
We would, yes. So it can be anything within our capital budget with a minimum threshold of 5%. So I think we're at like, what would that be, $70,000? Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Daley. More of a comment than anything. I think that when you made a comment, Director Pedro, about 50-ish years old, the pipes in the ground, I think this is where our asset management plan and getting that work done will become a good benefit. So we won't be guesstimating. We'll have a better idea of when and how we need to start replacing infrastructure underneath the ground. But overall, I think this is a good project in seeing the improvements you'll also make at the intersection of Highway 27 and 57th Avenue, because over the years we've had many comments in regards to that set of lights. So I'm pleased to see this project. I'm well, not pleased, I guess, to see this project coming through, but at least we will sort of kill 2 situations with one project. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to the director. So we've obviously been doing a lot of surveillance over the last 2.5 years relative to our water and water mains and everything. So prioritization-wise, is this like 1A, and then we've got a queue of 1B, 1C, 1D as well that could probably, perhaps, likely require some immediate attention in the very near future?
This is a great question. I'll try to keep it brief. So essentially, when we look at MIP program as a whole, we're going to look at the critical infrastructure and a priority. Generally, a sanitary system would be at the top of that list. And then you would consider something like the road, or excuse me, the water system, and then the road is kind of that 2A or 3. And then storm is kind of the last on that list. And so this particular project, we have the data because we did the investigation where this is literally the worst piece of sanitary sewer that the town has in its inventory. Granted, there are, I believe, 30, close to 40 others that are not quite as badly deteriorated, but getting close. So this is definitely the top of the list.
Good, thank you. Any further questions? Back to you, Director Pedro.
Thank you very much. So continuing with the large requests, we do have the water loss and I&I program. And so we are asking for quite a bit of money here to continue that program. And this would be split into two phases, or excuse me, two areas where we're going to focus. One being phase 3 for the water meter replacement program, given the improvements and gains that we're seeing through that initiative. And then a small portion of this amount would go towards our relining program in the sanitary system. That would go towards sanitary main relining as well as sanitary manhole relining. So these are, all of these initiatives have made an effect on our numbers, which is why we want to focus in on these going forward.
Thank you. Any questions? Just a comment from myself. I just think that this is our best return on our investments that we can do as far as getting our I&I under control. So thank you for all the hard work that you've been doing on this up to this point. No further questions on this one? Okay, continue on. Thank you.
Thank you. And so continuing with the utilities requests, we do have, excuse me, we do have a utility service vehicle that is quite dated. It's a 2009 unit. It is starting to fail, so it does see repetitive repair and maintenance issues. Just within the last, approximately 6 weeks, we've had the crane on it fail 4 times. But the biggest issue here is that it does have a leak in the engine, but unfortunately, due to the design of the vehicle, requires the entire body to be lifted off, and it's approximately a $10,000 repair. So it's not something that we really want to do with a vehicle that's this old and seeing this much maintenance on. And so we are looking to replace that with a unit next year. Now, what we've tried to do in this procurement is that we would look at a gently used service truck. For a brand new service truck, to meet these requirements, you're looking at more of that $250,000 to $300,000 range. And so we've decided that we could get something that it is functional for our purposes for the $200,000 or less range.
Good, thank you. Any questions? You're getting off easy on this one. Continue on. Thank you.
I will pass it over to Director Lindeman.
We'll just go directly to Director Lapointe about the Aquatic Center.
All right, I'm going to put the fun back in funding request this evening. It's for you, Mayor Daley. The hot tub retile. So we do plan to replace the original 2002 hot tub tiles. They've deteriorated to the point, due to heat and chemical and high usage. Retiling will restore appearance, prevent further damage, and extend the overall life of the hot tub.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Councilor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. To Director Lapointe, how long would that hot tub be closed? Because I know a lot of the seniors, they love going to the hot tub after their aquatic swim. And so I'm just wondering how long that would be closed.
Through the mayor, I believe it would be done during the annual shutdown, so it would happen during September.
Thank you. I have a question. Have we done an inspection on the plumbing on the hot tub before tiles, or is this something that goes in retiling as well?
I'm not aware of what has been done. Again, the facility supervisor was pretty thorough. I would imagine it has been done, but I don't have information with me this evening.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Sorry, the inspection has not been done. Something that was supervisor. Should clarify that at this point. We did not have an outside contractor look at it. The facility supervisor did take a look at it.
Okay, thank you. Continue on, that'd be great.
In hot water, the project will fully replace the facility's aging hot water recirc line, which supplies the change rooms and washrooms. The original 2000 evidenced by two carriages.
Thank you. Okay, continue on, Director Lapointe.
Get past this one. I've already.
Yeah, it is council's information. If you weren't already aware, the previous council for approved this $400,000 for sports electrical upgrades, basically replacing everything from the transformer on the pole into the panel inside the complex. This is original circa 1981. The system was maxed, and the timelines to do this work, which is during our summer shutdown. We are going to extend that shutdown window from late June into mid-August. That the previous council was asked to approve it on your behalf, I should say. So that has been factored into what you're seeing today.
All right, Sportsplex life cycle. So if you're not familiar with it, the 2023 facility life cycle assessment identified several priority capital renewal projects at the Sportsplex, including replacing aging mechanical systems. And you see those listed there. Those are the exhaust fans, heat exchanger, hydronic pumps, and of course the sump pump. And then there's also some safety related items that were also required, including replacement of the exterior stairs and warped hardwood decking in the main arena. We are hoping to get to the auxiliary hardwood decking as well if the budget allows.
Okay, any questions? Looks like you're getting off really easy tonight. Looks like you're getting off really easy tonight. Continue.
The Kubota Z-Track, so we're replacing 2 end-of-life mowers with 1 new Kubota to improve mowing and maintain reliable equipment. This should lower operating costs and reduce downtime by right-sizing the fleet while maintaining service levels.
Thank you. Again, any questions from council? Councillor Cook.
Mayor, to Director Lapointe, is the 12,500 other from the trade-in value of the mowers we would be trading in?
That is correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dealing. Through you to the director, just would this be used exclusively on our sports fields and managed recreation fields, or would this be used in throughout our green space? Thank you.
I believe it can be used in both fashions from your side of things. So yes, the sports fields and additional use.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Daly, and through you to Director. Is this a completely new and novel type of equipment? Is the maintenance personnel that we have familiar with of equipment able to do the regular maintenance and more extensive repairs on it? Thanks.
I can jump on that one. The mechanic that we do have is well versed in these types of machines, so there's no concern on our side.
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. Seeing no other questions, continue, thanks.
All right. Next up, we have the fire hydrant installation adjacent to the ODR. This project plans to extend municipal water to the Centennial Outdoor Rink by installing a water line, a hydrant, and an isolation valve, including excavation, backfill, and site restoration. The new hydrant will improve rink maintenance efficiency and enhance fire protection for nearby amenities.
Good. Any questions from council? So I believe at this time, just, we are using the tanker from the fire department, is it, to flood the rink at this particular time now?
Sorry, we do infrequent, but there is a fire hydrant in Centennial, but its location goes across the trail, the walking path, and so without using large amounts of hose above ground and then leaving it exposed, and then it has some freezing issues, so that's the drawback of it. So it's kind of been a piecemeal piece for the last couple of years to get it in there.
Oh, good, thank you. Thank you for the explanation. Anybody else for a question? No? Okay, get you to continue, thank you.
The ODR ice resurfacer, so the plan here is to purchase a dedicated used ice bearer, which will enable faster and more efficient ice surface preparation for the outdoor rink. This second machine can also support the auxiliary rink during busy weekends, improving flooding speed and rink availability.
Good, thank you. Councillor Kirsch?
Through you to the director, would this reduce any closures? I mean, once in a while you'll see a sign that says, please stay off the ice. Would this help reduce downtime for the outdoor rink?
Through the mayor to Councillor Kirsch. Yes and no. Oftentimes it is weather related at this point, I would say. However, if we build up the ice appropriately, we should see not so much fluctuation in the wear, if you will, at this point.
Thank you. Any other question? Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. Through you to the director, and this additional machine, educate me, remind me, inform me, it would be stored in the sportsplex and then driven over as when needed?
To Councillor Wilson, yes. Ideally, we would have a storage facility on site, but we don't have that at this point. So we have taken a look at the actual sportsplex, and we can accommodate it. It's not the best situation in terms of storage, but certainly we can accommodate it on site.
Thank you. Any further questions? No? Okay. Here.
So the OR Hedges Playground is a top candidate for replacement due to wear, poor surfacing, deteriorated borders, lack of accessibility, and safety concerns. This project will improve safety, durability, accessibility, and compliance with current standards, better serving local families.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you. Continue.
So the dog park bank erosion, the west bank of the old off-leash dog park is eroding toward the path and fence, posing a safety and infrastructure risk. The site is part of the Olds Creek water management system, which may require Water Act approval before work can proceed. Ultimately, this is just a study this year. Findings will inform a future capital project aimed at reducing long-term maintenance and safety risks.
Thank you. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Dan, and to Director, yeah, the point. So the Mountain View County, they must subsidize a bit for the arena, the pool, and would they also subsidize for this off-leash park since it is in Mountain View County, isn't it?
I'll take that one. And through you, Mayor Daley, how are shared facilities agreements structured with the county is that facilities are identified and then we apply for funding through Mountain View County. The off-leash dog park is not one of those facilities, so it would not be eligible. for county cost share. That's a question for the ICC renegotiation, but as of now, it's not eligible. Whether or not we seek eligibility is a different question. But it's based on our facilities agreement with the county. It's for the facilities that county residents use. So I believe things like soccer fields, arenas, pools, those numbers are relatively attainable or verifiable through things like minor sports registrations or school enrollments. Off-leash dog parks, a bit harder to maybe even justify if whether or not county residents use it. So I would say it would be a tough one to include in our existing facilities agreement, but at council's direction, it can be brought to our ICC committee.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daly, and through you to Director Lapointe. Is the focus of this to like shore up and stop erosion? Is there some idea that perhaps just the path could be moved and stop trying to fight nature? Or is this exclusively like that's the plan that they're looking at, just shoring things up?
To Councillor Taylor, all of the above.
Thank you. Any further questions? All right, move on to the next project sheet.
So that will be the sports fields revitalization. This is a multi-year $50,000 a year initiative to purchase priority sports field equipment and complete targeted upgrades. So this time around, we're looking at purchasing a verticutter for turf improvement and to contract fence replacement at OR Hedges Ball Diamonds.
Thank you. Any questions? I don't see any, so I think that was, oh, Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and it's probably to CAO Williams. My understanding, like these sports fields when built, they were supposed to be of a high level, you know, attract a lot of, you know, higher elite athletes coming to our fields and whatnot. So it's my understanding that those fields are not up to that standard. So is there anything in the future plans to try and upgrade them to become to elite level of play that we can attract higher level, more people, economy boost?
Yes, and good question through you, Mr. Chair. So as part of Community Services business plan, one of the key pieces in the rec department is to increase facility utilization across the board. With sports fields in particular, Rotary Park was the primary candidate for that, I guess, you know, top tier Class A facility. And I believe when it was built, sports tourism was a big pitch. I think one of the issues, we never quite fully qualified what kind of sports we were looking for. So, and compared that to the infrastructure that was built. So for instance, those fields are very large and are very suitable for, you know, perhaps adult fastball, for instance. Whereas what we see in rural Alberta, in terms of small towns like ours attracting sports tourism, it's adult slow pitch. And that's when you get into, you know, perhaps shorter fields. Slow pitch, if you're familiar, doesn't use mounds, whereas hardball does. These fields, all but one, have mounds, for instance. So we found we're limited in the type of baseball we can attract. Another thing with soccer, it hasn't grown as much in rural Alberta as it has in the cities, what we're finding. So through our community services department, our division, and with the rec department, focusing on minor soccer and their tournaments along with some college utilization is what we see as a starting point. So it certainly is an effort, and Director Lapointe can elaborate, but we haven't, as you alluded to, seen the benefit we initially hoped for in the construction of Rotary Park. And it's across the board. We're hoping to improve that with baseball, soccer, hockey, aquatics facilities, just to increase usability, the user fees, and most importantly, the economic activity that these facilities have the ability to generate for hotels and restaurants and gas stations, et cetera, in town. Anything to add on that, Keith?
Did you want to comment?
I was just going to wholeheartedly agree. I think on our side of things, our plan is to work with what we have. And so to go to other communities, to perhaps go to conferences and find out, you know, who would want to use our facilities outside of our regular users as well. So not to invest more, perhaps, but to invest more time in attracting potential users.
Thank you. Supplemental?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Daley. So there's no plan to revamp some of those mounds, like, can you just sort of take the mounds out? I don't know, I'm asking you. You guys are the expert. Can you just take the mounds out and reconfigure the ball diamond so that you can get the other user groups or not?
The mound would be one issue. And I believe actually one of the fields, it's only one of the fields that has a permanent mound at this point, from what I understand. And so, again, we're exploring all sorts of options, but the plan would not be to invest any additional capital dollars. It would be to see who we can attract with our current facilities.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. Through you, perhaps to the CAO or the Director Linderman, just some of these purchases, generally small in dollars, you know, the fire hydrant, I use small, maybe in italics and bold and underlined and everything, but and the Zamboni, the cutter and so on, very unique, specific purchases. And when I look into the crystal ball and the preamble to the discussion here today, and we know the pressures that are going to be, well, that are mounting now and that we're going to have into the future, I'm just wondering, with the specific uses of the Zamboni, and I know we've got a potential use as a backup in the sportsplex, but you know, it's being designated for the outdoor rink, the fire hydrant and everything. Are we better off to maybe relook at those purchases and build the nest egg, so to speak, I guess, for lack of a better word, in anticipation of some fairly large needs coming down in the next 2 years, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, if that makes sense?
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Chair, I think I know what you're throwing. Yes, council has to prioritize because, like we mentioned, this capital budget is 3.5 approximately. There's just a little over 2 in funding available, and with the recommendations, there's the word, of not taking on new debt this year, nor dipping into reserves this year outside of the flow in, flow out that we mentioned, the 440,000 that we do plan on spending that are dedicated generally through operating transfers to reserves. You have to cut some of these projects. We think every project has value. That's why we're bringing it to you. It's just, does it have enough value for you to spend the finite dollars on? I think one thing we didn't quite elaborate on enough, if I go back to the outdoor rink, the hydrant, for example, the Zamboni, if we talk about the mower, if we even talk about the Mechanics Bay upgrade, we're also trying to focus on things that have an operational impact on the positive. So things like the Mechanics Bay upgrade, as you heard, with that, we'll be able to do more of our in-house servicing that we currently contract out. With the hydrant next to the outdoor rink, we're going to minimize the time it takes to flood that rink, and with trucks and staff, with the sports field is not a great one, but through investing in more routine annual maintenance, we're eventually going to save those big ticket items when, let's say, the soccer turf is not well taken care of and it has to be totally tilled and the turtleback, as it's called, reshaped. So we do think even the smallest of items has that efficacy, either through pure capital need or having that corresponding positive operational impact. And this is just the introduction. Well, after these are introduced. We'll have a brief recess, I propose, and come back and we'll go through them again, kind of yay or nay. And obviously, as December 1st will be the next time you'll see this again, and hopefully we'll have some options for you on there once we get a sense of your priorities tonight for capital. But very long way to answer your questions. But yes, you have to figure out what's more important and triage accordingly. Hopefully I didn't get that wrong. That was a very long answer for.
No, that,
Right, go ahead.
that
Councilor.
helps and, yeah, supplement. And so, again, at the start of the presentation, Director Linderman reviewed the timeline. I do some of my best thinking at 2 in the morning. So we will have one or two other opportunities. We're getting together again tomorrow with capital operating. And then I think, I can't remember the exact dates, December 1st or something, but again, as I stew and marinate on this, and I can't believe this. Like, there's that opportunity for any of us, all of us, right, to revisit.
I thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely. Like for hypothetically speaking, that if you have a 2 a.m. thought tonight or tomorrow or next week, I mean, Microsoft Outlook has delay delivery. You can actually delay your emails to send it a human hour. But whether you send them right to me or me and CC Council, whether it be your priorities or a project that you want more information on, or your list, even call it that. That's information we can use, because we don't want to bring back the same discussion on December 1st. We want to bring you in options, because honestly, we have let's call it $2.4 million available to spend. We're going to spend it all, and just what we're going to spend it on, and that's not that difficult. It just kind of sucks because you're going to have all these things that we want to do that you won't be able to do, that are good ideas, but you have to have priorities. So.
Probably got the email written already, eh? All right. So did I hear right, like Director Linderman, do you want to take a recess now and before we move on to the next part of the meeting tonight?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yep, let's take a 10-minute recess then at 6:27. So we'll plan to be back here at about 6:37 or so. All right, 10-minute recess. You got the button. Yeah. All right, we're back. Bring the meeting back to order again. And who would like to start us off then in the second set? CAO Williams then, please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. So I'm going to pass over to Sheena in a moment to go through the capital detail sheets and ask for general consensus or deferral on each project. Doesn't have to be unanimous to any degree. You don't have to have all the decisions made tonight. What we're trying to get is enough information to bring you back a couple options for a approved capital budget on December 1st. As a reminder, the budget themes we're sticking with, and I think what we've been consistent so far, trying to focus on capital projects of the top priority on the essential infrastructure and those projects that support our operating efficiencies and capabilities. Not an easy task, but we shall get there. So, Sheena, over to you, and you can take the mouse, if you will, and have at it.
I will first just ask, did any questions come up as we were on break? Is there anything else you need more clarification on before we jump back in? Okay. Back up to the main list here. So the first item on here was the LED lighting. I can just get a general idea of where council's sitting with that one. Just either a hands up, thumbs up, cross, around. Keep. Okay, so keep in there for now, kind of idea. Okay. Boiler replacement. Yep. Okay. The thermal imaging camera. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and it's the replacement of.
Yeah, replacement of one of the four is what's being asked.
So yeah, this would be the time to have that discussion if you were wanting to.
Just a comment though, but I think as Director Andrew did say, we did not do this last year, and we could end up looking at 2 next year. And being it's more of a small ticket item, I'm not so apt to be argumentative over this one particular item as some maybe more expensive ones down the road.
In light that the price of it hasn't dropped in the time that we've kicked this down the road, I'm also more amenable to.
Okay, we're good with that. The mechanic bay upgrades. We've got 1 thumb in the air. 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 and a no hands. 6. Okay, good. 54th Street crosswalk.
Was this?
Okay, the material screen.
If you follow your logic, you'd say for $12,000, let's buy 4 of them, I guess. I don't know, but, you know. I'm not in favor of it, so.
You know, I realize that some of these stuff is like 20,000 or less, but you know, 5 things come up to 100,000, which is a 1% tax increase. So, I mean, we might think, you know, 17,000 is minimal, but at the end of the day, if you have 5 or 6 of them, that adds up. So, you know, I mean, I think we got to be really, if we don't have any money, like we keep saying, we don't have any money, so we have to really prioritize. And my priority is the water, which I think is a high priority, and fixing 54 so that we don't have literally whatever on people's, you know, bathroom floors. You know, I think those are high priorities, and I just want to make that statement that 5 things can add up to 100,000 quite easily.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. Yeah, and similar to that, I guess you're right. We could easily spend this 3.37 million and just all go home and away we go. But I'm looking at it from a couple different perspectives. And one is safety implications, one is environmental implications, and one is this pay me now or pay me later in terms of mitigating a significant repair bill down the road, perhaps, possibly. And how is this going to make life better for our residents? And as I've said in the first term for 4 years, yeah, it's only $12,000. But the flip side, it's $12,000 that we don't have. So I similar to Mary Ann's, Councillor Overwater's comments, yeah, like $12,000, well, as I said, facetiously somewhat, let's buy 3, but it's $12,000 that we really don't have. And hence my comment earlier around, you know, do we want to start building a nest egg even here or being more judicious with our spend decisions? So I'm a no on this. Thanks.
Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley. Perhaps it would be helpful to have some more information on what the return on investment is. From what I'm understanding, people are manually sifting it right now. That's a large expense on labor and, you know, possible injuries. So there's these large objects. I see some value in there, but we don't have any numbers on that. Perhaps that'd be helpful to get some of that.
CAO Williams.
Thank you, and through you to just not address but speak to Councillor Taylor's comment. Very fair, because there's a lot of items, whether we look at the outdoor rink asks or the Mechanics Bay upgrades, that there's going to be a positive operational impact, as I mentioned earlier, but we don't have the precise data yet. Fortunately, through our work order system with Citywide, we have started under 12 months of data so far, but have started tracking operator time, essentially. So I don't want to say that sifting dirt is one of the categories they choose on their timesheet every day. That's a bit too, you know, organic. See, I can do it too. Yeah. But we'll be able, as time goes on, just as we improve our asset management program and improve the presentation that you see to help make your decisions, we will have that capability eventually. But we literally just started it 8 months ago. So point well taken. It's something we both agree on. We want to work towards. Right now, you just got to trust us. There will be a operational, you know, impact on the positive side. We just don't know what that is right now. So.
Okay, back to you, Director.
Okay.
Did you get direction on that one?
No.
I have it as a no. Okay. So next item is the municipal improvement program. No. And then our water loss and I-9 program. 2 thumbs up, perfect. The service truck with the crane, oh, sorry. Councillor
Go
Wilson.
ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. So perhaps I should have asked it earlier, but I have a second or third chance here now. So like on that water loss and I&I, so $1 million. I think in the previous 2 years, we'd committed a total of $3.5 million over those 2 years. We're going to be able to execute, like we have capacity, whether it be internal and or through contract services and so on, to execute the $1 million spend, no problem. Thanks.
Simple answer is yes. Yes, absolutely. We the $1 million is just split between water meter installation, which is contracted, and the sanitary relining is also contracted. So from our perspective, it's mostly just management.
Okay, perfect. So we were at the service truck with the crane.
Counselor Blatz and then Counselor Krush.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to Sheena or Director Pedro. I mean, this is $200,000 and that it is a big ask and maybe something we don't necessarily need this year, perhaps maybe next year, but if we find our circumstances change somewhat or if there's some obscure grant funding that comes through between now and spring budget adjustments, this could come back, could it not? Potentially, if we decide tonight this is a kick the can down the road kind of situation.
Yes, definitely, it could come back to spring budget adjustments.
Go ahead, Director Pedro.
Thank you. If I could just add to that, this particular vehicle is used on a daily basis, so it most certainly would come back. It's one of those critical pieces we use in utilities, so it does factor into our water loss and I&I initiatives. It's a critical tool.
Thank you. Counselor Krush. Okay. I think Counselor Cook and then Counselor. Okay.
And my understanding is these kind of decisions don't have to be black and white. We can designate our commitment towards this by putting, let's say, $100,000 towards a designated reserve for this truck so that in a year we could do another $100,000. Is that correct?
So this particular one is actually coming from reserves right now, that's the funding, so we just would leave those funds there if you would rather fund it in.
And is that unrestricted reserves or is that restricted?
That's a
reserves?
restricted reserve that it's coming from, yep.
Counselor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, through you to the director. So I think, yeah, this was the unit you talked about that's experiencing repair and maintenance issues. You mentioned it's daily use. So what is our reliability and availability of this machine now? Is it laid up more in the shop, whether it's our own shop or a third-party shop? Is it laid up more often in the shop than it is on service line? Thank you.
No, proportionally speaking, it is out in the field. It has a repair almost every week, though, when you look at the data. So it is breaking down more frequently than we'd like. For the most part, aside from that large repair I alluded to earlier, which we can't do given we don't have the equipment for that.
Counselor Overwater. Okay. Counselor Blatz.
Thank you. Maybe this will be my final question or comment through you, Mayor Daley, to Director Pedro. The truck that we existingly have, or the one that's not really very good, is there any potential resale that could be put towards a new truck? I mean, somebody else may be able to utilize it for something else. Could we possibly look at? We will dispose of that asset, I'm assuming.
Yep, fair question. So as with all of our fleets and equipment, we do try and either sell it or trade it in. A unit like this would likely go to auction. We've had fairly good success with what we've sent there. It's hard to say what this particular unit would value at because it is quite specialized.
Thank you. Counselor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. So I am really torn on this one, and, you know, because we've talked about this previous term around a schedule for fleet maintenance or fleet upgrade, fleet replacement. And we always come back to, well, defer, postpone, or whatever. So I am torn on this one, but my question and kind of ties in with the earlier one. So barring a catastrophic event failure with this vehicle, which is sounds like it's possible, it shouldn't and won't impact the deliverability of the service that this truck is geared for in terms of our utility maintenance and everything, correct? Like, even with its increasing maintenance schedule, if that makes sense?
I think I understand what you're asking. If the truck did stop functioning, it would certainly make things a lot more difficult for our crew. So we'd have to either reconfigure one of our other units to serve the same function or potentially look at renting out a similar unit
supplemental, thanks, truly. Or we just continue to limp this thing along again with bubble gum and duct tape and whatever else, and then deal with this 1 year from now, right? Like, we can't limp it along.
Correct. Yes, we certainly could. And that's what we've been doing until now.
With a $10,000 repair. Yeah. CEO Williams and then Counselor Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. One thing the last council saw in service level when we were discussing bringing our mechanic function partially in-house was kind of two data sets. One was fairly stable in its projections about our equipment repairs and maintenance expenses. The other one was more assumptive based on our part of downtime and the cost of downtime and equipment. So since 2022, at least, one thing council has been discussing since that time was the operational impacts, both financial and non-financial, of having an ill-prepared fleet. That's why the light fleet policy was passed. We don't have yet a heavy fleet policy. Our parks mowers, the mowers actually, they were more lease-based, so they were better. I should say the sidewalk plows, those were actually in the shop more than they were active. So not only did that delay our snow clearing efforts, it blew our R&M budgets out of the water every single year. We were trending anywhere from 50 to 100% over in some cases. So just like those scenarios coming back to the utility truck here with the crane, we can limp it along, but it's going to have a financial impact, whether you spend $200,000 and we try to get something used, or you defer it now and we spend $10,000, it's broken down here, it's broken down there, we have to add this. It's just you don't see those costs at budget because it's in our operating budget, but that's the idea of asset management, condition assessments, and having a replacement policy. And there's no easy, I'm not giving you an answer right now, it's just important that you understand that if you don't approve this, it's still going to have a financial implication for us, whether it be financial or in lost time. So,
Thank you. Counselor Taylor and then Counselor Overwater.
Thanks, Mayor Daley, and through you to Director Pedro. The nature of the repairs, is this are we going to be running out of things to repair on it? Is this getting better? Is it Ship of Theseus style, or is this just good money after bad? Thanks.
It's essentially good money after bad. So the nature of the repairs this year, they're recurring. So a lot of them are in the same area of the truck. And really, when you look at the age of the vehicle and the condition that it's in, you're just putting lipstick on a pig. We're at that point. So we can certainly do that and keep doing it, but we're going to keep having the same failures. Unfortunately, the truck is just that old.
Thank you. Counselor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and to Director Pedro. For that type of truck, do you have to order it, like a special order, and how long would that take? And second question, the money is in restricted reserves already for this truck?
No, it's in our asset replacement reserve, so that just is to cover any asset that is necessary. It's not specific for a truck or this truck.
Okay. So again, with that, again, if you have to fix this truck 5 times for $10,000 a piece for basically the same thing that's going over and over again, we're at $100,000, we're at half the price of the truck. So I guess I would be in favor of replacing the truck. That's mine.
That's it. So
I don't know whether that needs a comment or not, Director Pedro, maybe just,
There was certainly a question in there, so perhaps I'll speak to that first. As far as availability, these units are fairly common, so there isn't really much of a delay, especially when looking at the pre-owned market, which we would be doing in this case. There's a lot of availability across the province, so not too concerned there. As far as the cost of the repairs, we're not seeing repairs of $10,000 every time. So the $10,000 one is the large one that's outstanding that we haven't pulled the trigger on. And then the rest are variable because we have that in-house mechanic. they're as little as a few $100s for parts to a few $1,000s so far.
Good, thank you. Counselor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to Director Pedro. And I understand that you say the pre-owned market there's quite an adequate supply throughout the province, but again, I know that people are starting to look for a lot of pre-owned vehicles, so how long that market will last is unknown, really. And so next year, say if we deferred it till next year or till spring budget, the cost could increase too. So that's one of the things that we must take into consideration as well. Because I know there's a great demand for pre-owned vehicles everywhere. It doesn't matter what type of vehicle it is.
Counselor Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor Daley, and through you to Director Linderman. In one of your early slides here, titled Machinery and Equipment Fleet, how much would we put away? You had 1.3 million as what we should be putting away, and you said those 900K deficit. So if that was properly funded, like, we wouldn't be having these conversations. These vehicles would just be in a rotation. We'd be able to replace them at a proper schedule. Is that correct?
Correct. Then we would be able to have an asset or a fleet management program that you would just, the asset management would feed our requests and they wouldn't have to come through here.
Counselor Cook?
Thank you, and through to Director Pedro. So am I to understand that if we did fund this, the $200,000 purchase, we would not go ahead with a $10,000 repair on the old vehicle?
That is correct.
So that would be an immediate savings.
You know, Counselor Wilson?
Thank you. And I can't even remember what I was going to ask. Who booked this meeting as late at night? Jesus, just give me a second. I'm trying to think. I'm going to have to pass. I forgot my question. I'm sorry. I apologize.
If you remember it, Counselor Wilson, come back to us, and there we are.
Again, I am torn on this one from fleet management perspective, but at the flip side, and I do hear your comment relative to a 10K impending repair bill for the vehicle, but at the same time, this is exactly why we hired the in-shop mechanic, right? Is to deal with these type of issues, avoid outsourcing, going to a third party. This gentleman probably for the next year will certainly, if we go down this path of not purchasing, will certainly prove his worth over and over, I'm sure, with this vehicle alone. My question is for the Director Linderman. We go down the path and we say, we pass on this, and then we get it to June, and this vehicle is just failure after failure after failure. We can do a budget adjustment at any time and dip into the reserves at that point in time, as we would here now in June or July or whatever point in 2026, and say, okay, we now have to purchase this vehicle. Is that an option, or am I missing something? Thank you.
No, yeah, that's definitely an option. Any emergent expense we can bring through to council at any point.
Okay. Thank you. Do you need to ask the question again, Director Lindeman?
I think you have one more
Oh,
question.
there we go.
No, thank you, Mayor Daley. Just more of a comment, really. It's just feels like all of our hopes and dreams of getting out of this I&I situation rests on Director Pedro and all the efforts of administration and everybody around him. So I do want to lift as many of the roadblocks to that as possible. So if a truck is going to be stopping these appointments from being made and repairs being done, I do see some value in that, as difficult it is to swallow the price tag on that. Just a comment.
Thank you. Counselor Wilson?
Sure, I'm not sure if it's a rebuttal or whatever, but I'm hearing, barring something catastrophic, this isn't going to impede the delivery of service.
Unless the truck ceases to operate, that would be what we would consider catastrophic failure. If it's just breaking down like it's doing now, then we would go through the process and just repair it as we can.
And thank you for the latitude. You're right, at which point, as Director Linderman confirmed, we do an adjustment at some point in 2026, and lo and behold, we've got a truck on order. Timing might be an issue, I guess, but, okay.
Okay. So
Okay,
back
so-
to you, Director Lindeman.
Another show of hands where we sit on that one after all the discussion. Okay. Next is the hot tub retile.
Counselor Overwater?
Is this a real necessity? You said it was just looked at by the facility supervisor there. So is it a real necessity that it would have to be done this year, or is it, I know I've been in it, there are a few tiles that are gone, but is it imperative that it would be fixed this coming year?
I don't think it impedes the functionality of the hot tub, if that's what you're asking at this point. It's primarily aesthetic.
Do we have questions down here? No? Okay, Counselor Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor Daly. And through you to key the point. I was to understand that there was going to be some maintenance savings on getting this tiling done. It's a reduction of risk of more expensive repairs down the road if this was not done.
Certainly in terms of upkeep, I mean, we're replacing tile at this point. You know, again, it is one of those things that we're pushing it down the road. So yes, there would be some short-term benefit, obviously, if we were to invest. But at this point, I would say it is primarily aesthetic.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Director Lindeman.
Okay, show of hands on that one. Down. That's allowed. Okay, so that's a no. The hot water and recert pipes. For the next one on the list. Okay, got a few yeses there. Okay. The facility life cycle. Now this one was kind of all lumped in together as one. But there are a few items within there. I'm gonna bring that back up here. So thoughts on this item?
Counselor Wilson?
Well, again, as I stated earlier in one of my, I think there are two, and I don't know how they're apportioned within the 227 total, but if you want to grab my attention, one sure way to do it is with the exterior stairs where you say this is a safety-related issue, and then with the hardwood decking where you mentioned it's a safety issue. So I just budget discussion. How critical fans are stick out heat exchanger for 50, so again, you're aging out. So maybe out of those 4 or 5 that are there, I'm just wondering about the heat exchanger and how critical the exhaust fans are, given that we can't get parts.
Yeah, perhaps you've asked about all 5 that are listed there at this point. We did do an internal assessment, so recommendations that you see in front of you are actually in the facility study that was completed. Of the items that you see on the list, I would say that there would probably be some flexibility, actually, believe it or not, on the hardwood decking and the exterior stairs. We could probably push that another year.
Counselor Cook?
Thank you, and through to Director Linderman. Are the grants, so a significant amount of this is coming from grants, is this specific grants that would be just for this life cycle project, or is this more general grants that apply to other projects?
This is local government fiscal framework that could be applied to the project on here.
CAO Williams.
Thank you again, Mayor Daley, and just another reminder that the Sportsplex life cycle replacement schedule, as Director LaPointe mentioned, not everything is urgent this year, but when you look back to our opening presentation on what's coming down the pipe, we're projecting next year $2 million roof is going to be, 1.4 million plus some other things are going to be required as well. So you have to think that if we're not funding it now, we're probably going to fund it later for a bit more, but you're going to be faced with maybe perhaps a larger crunch in 2027 budget deliberations. So again, I have no advice for this. It's just I want to make sure that you're aware of that.
One of those scenarios where pay me now, pay me later kind of, right, where it costs 220 next 327.
Exactly. And then using the Sportsplex as an analogy, right? Well, this was built in 1981. Ideally, someone would have started saving for this at some point in the last 44 years, but they didn't. So you're faced with that deficit to make up for really quickly.
Councillor Taylor.
Yes, Mayor Daley, and through you to maybe the CEO. Look, to that point, is there going to be some economies of scale of stacking a bunch of these repairs all at once, or does that, cause some other unforeseen consequences or more delays? Could there be some advantages to kicking this down the road?
The question through you is, I do believe a lot of sense for economies of scale. If we're replacing a roof, for instance, and there's other envelope repairs, that would make a lot of sense. I think what's before today, there's not a lot of complementary here. We say, let's say stacking for benefit, cost or otherwise. Generally, it's that shutdown window that we have in July and part of August, so we're not affecting user groups. Now, we do other things to leverage cost savings, but mostly it has been to not disrupt the schedule. But for 2026, I don't see a lot of overlap with things if they're pushed would have an effect on that or held. So,
Councillor Blatz.
Daily, but see, answered what my question. So, yeah, 1.8 million arena. So again, I know that up, but if we start deferring, we could be looking at $4 million and a bigger swallow than, because there's no guarantees next come back at only be inflation could have a factor in how much next year. So that's my only comment.
Councillor Overwater.
Thank you. It's probably to CAO Williams. Okay, I know I keep bringing up the county, but do they sort of capital expense with the sports plan and the center in order to keep it maintained yearly, or is it operating expense that they give us, or is there a split?
Very good question. And through the chair, it's both. The operating cost share that the county provides us, that is set in the agreement, and it is roughly the same every year with an inflation indicator. On the capital piece, it's year-to-year approval based on county council's policy 8006. But in recent years, including in 2025, the county has provided 23% funding, which is the population threshold they set for who the citizens who have access to Olds' facilities. And last year, the year before, they did a 23% contribution for the aquatic center upgrade. So we will apply. So aquatic center for the sport is consideration. County a 23% cost share on these items, that would obviously reduce our expenditures by that amount as well. But we can't speak to that until county council provides that approval. And we'll submit that letter once the capital budget is fully deliberated and passed, so we know what we're doing next year.
Supplemental, so do we feel that 23% is sufficient? I mean, of course, we always want more, but, you know, realistically, is 23% realistic, or should we be getting more like 33%? Do we know that?
And another good question, and through you, Mayor Daley, it's a difficult one. The county, in their defense, they have 5 urban municipalities that all have their own recreation they have to fund. So they try to do it as equitably as possible. So they make their own recreation areas, and in theory, the people who live in that area use Olds or Didsbury or Carstairs or Cremona or Sundre for their recreation. In Olds' case, it would be helpful, to answer your question, if we had solid stats on usership. It's something we never really invested in before, like how many town residents versus county residents versus wherever other residents use our pool or use our soccer fields or use our arena. And then we establish, a reasonable benchmark. Money to do a solid. Also, you will find that the only legislative mechanism for recreation is the ICF framework, only between municipalities that touch each other through the boundaries. That's a little awkward. Their boundaries actually touch. So we're pretty confident that you people from Didsbury or Sundre or Carstairs or Bowden or whoever else, Nehill County, use our pool, for example, but there's no mechanism for us to recover that. So I think 23%, again, taking a long time to answer these questions. I think 23% is as fair as we're going to get.
Sounding like the ministers. You want less questions.
Yeah. Which?
So is TC about doing a regional complex instead of all of us trying to, watch and save and, putting money old, because our years old, there room discussions about a regional complex in the county. If you build it, they come.
Another fair question through the chair. Not been the closest thing we have is currently kicking off these 2 recreation. One change that you read on a daily basis for us all. It's just a matter of time before we. And province in Canada, no one has as much infrastructure as Alberta has. There be roads or pools or rinks, or we're going to eventually run out of money here, and we'll have to start looking more regionally. Yeah, I think so. It really just takes that first, the first municipality to say, I'm okay not having X facility within my boundary. And that would be the test, I think, because everyone kind of wants that. And that's why Sundre has a pool, we have a pool, Didsbury has a pool, Innisfil has a pool, Red Deer has a few pools, Airdrie has at least 1 pool. So do we need that many pools? I dare I say not. But when oil was $120 a barrel, you thought you could afford a lot of stuff. So.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I have a comment and then a direct question through you to Director Lapointe. And my comment is, everybody knows I'm an extremely optimistic individual. I'm hopeful, certainly in Hope Springs Eternal, that our financial situation is going to improve and it's going to start turning next year. If for no other reason, once we get our residential developments on stream, they start to come on stream. and we all know those projects, the apartment blocks and everything else, as well as other complexes that are being built. So our financial position, and my opinion, can only improve in the next 12 to 15 months. How does that matter? Well, it gives us a little bit of wiggle room going forward with spend. My question is, if we extract out the exterior stairs and the hardwood decking, as Director Lapointe indicated, what's the back of the napkin math that would reduce the the 227,000 next year? How much are we talking a reduction, roughly? Thank you.
Can I get back to you with those numbers?
Sometime around 2 a.m. would be fine. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Director Lindeman?
And we'll bring those numbers back tomorrow. If that works. Next, we have the Kubota Z-Track.
Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to Director Lapointe, but
Did somebody say the current in aging our brand new field, and that new machinery that are large investments where you have to tear them up and
Fine, we're not using it. The unit is functional in life. So we're looking to cash in resale value at this point.
Okay, thumbs. Got 2, 4. Okay. The outdoor shack, and that was hydrant and everything moving.
Go ahead. Councillor.
CAO was talked about new asset map, and there's a bunch coming down the pipe, but we're not. And my personal feeling of hydrant is that might be a bit of a quality of life ask. More information.
Any other comments or questions?
I agree. I would, fire hydrant, the resurfacer, I would look to pass on these. Thanks.
Thumbs down. And that's the ice. Next. Yeah. Okay, so that's both. The basement.
Okay, is there Councillor?
Thank you, Mayor Dan, and yes, to Director Lapointe. So this playground system that's there, it's correct. If can we just remove it so that it's not a risk to anybody? Replace it later. Maybe we could get a playground grant or to replace it. I don't know. I have no idea what kind of grants are out there.
At a later date, in the short term, if that was desire, certainly not see it.
C.L. Williams and then Councillor Kush.
Comments, council has a playground policy, and a couple for this discussion is that every playground replacement will seek partnership. 50% partner exceed, so that would apply with OR hedges. Keep it alive as much as possible. Related sides of recreation, there's a CSA score, and which we do. But placement plan, player on the year after that. Either through organization and leverage grant where take whatever club for playground third-party dollars, but approving it would mean you're approving half of that value based on council's policy. So
Clarification, that would be half of the 125 if we went ahead with this project.
correct, Mr. Mayor. We wouldn't build it. We could find half. You would have to obviously commit to $75,000. Sorry, my math is terrible right now, but yeah, you would have to commit to that much. So 62 grand, and we'd try to do better than that, but at minimum, we would seek that before pulling the trigger.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Crush?
Marianne said about possibly just getting rid of it temporarily. It's a pre-use. Those ballparks are packed almost every night of the week in the summer and even leading into fall, and it's kind of the built-in babysitter of that area. So I think you get a lot of
Pushback.
yeah, I think people would be pretty unhappy if that just disappeared.
Good to know.
Yeah.
It's being used.
Just heavily, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor Daly. Just, I guess, maybe need a little, but to see just how bad. What's the moderate safety concerns of the plague? Say approved, but involved. If a child, heaven forbid, what's her exposure on that?
Another good question, and through you, Mr. Chair. As a municipal organization, we're liable for a lot of things, and that's something I spend a lot of time worrying about. But with playgrounds, if you do fall below that CSA standard, the scoring matrix essentially, I don't have what exactly the thresholds are right now where that playground is. You increase your liability, more or less. That if an accident occurred because of it that was identified and not repaired, that's a pretty clear case of liability. But generally, someone, thinking a 3-year-old thinking they can fly, yeah, that and hurting their arm, that's not liability. But if it was directly related to a deficiency in the structure identified within that CSA standard, that's where the liability comes into play. I don't think it's a huge risk, but if that was identified, it wouldn't come back to council. We would just shut it down and remove it. Because I do have to protect that organization as well. So we'd never let it get to that point. It would be removed before we would, risk liability.
And it was noticeably, Director Lindeman got very nervous during that statement, so her eyes were just affliction there, so I don't blame her. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Dan Daly. Let's talk. Anyways, do we actively let to service? Because I know there are some service clubs that, they do have quite a bit of money, and could be more than happy to help have their name across a playground or something like that. So do we actively send out letters to service clubs to say, hey, do you want your name across, but we need 62.5 from you first?
I would say that we have not done that until this point, but that is the plan moving forward. Obviously, when we approved this plan, this playground replacement plan, the intention was to actively seek out their service clubs at this point.
Okay, should we go back to Director Lindeman for yay or nay?
Yeah. Yay or nay? That's 2 no's for. Okay. Next on here is the off-leash dog park. Just the preliminary design. This is, yeah. So the funding for this is coming from reserves, and we do have money that was given to us through Ducks Unlimited years ago. So that would be the reserve money that we would be using for this. It is very restricted as to what the use can be. It has to be at that dog park area. So.
Let me, for clarification, this would be a study just on the erosion, or would it be on the whole site as far as reclamation and fix-up?
I believe specific to the erosion. Do you have more to add?
Yeah, so this would be strictly an engineering exercise to address the erosion that's on that main road. So along the west side of the storm, or the storm pond there. So it doesn't assess the entire site.
Okay, good. Councillor Kush?
Just to clarify, so the money's coming from Ducks Unlimited for the most part, and that money is restricted to something like this. So it's either use it or lose it type situation.
Not necessarily lose it. We do have it in, like we have it in our reserves right now. It was given to us when that dog park went in, and it was to be used for trails or something around it, around that storm area.
I know. We got Overwater and then Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. So is there, like, this is 24,000 of a certain amount, or is there more money in there from Ducks Unlimited? I think I recall when this all was transpiring. So is there more money in there, or is it just still 24,000?
I'll double check, but I believe it was 25,000. It's extremely close to the 24. Yeah, I can double check that though for tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley. And to the directors, I guess I'm just really skeptical in spending a lot of this money for a study, which is going to just tell us how to shore up the banks, or perhaps if it's worth it just to move the path. Would there be some latitude to just move the path, and do we have room there just to move it a good distance away and allow the erosion to happen? I'm just always very hesitant to stop nature doing from what it does. Thanks.
I can jump in on this one. So a few, I guess, questions in there. As far as room to move the existing path, there is no room, so it's fairly close to the western property line. So that's town property in the county. To go any further west, we'd have to purchase land from the adjacent landowner. So not really an easy thing to do. As far as the scope of work, this would be for coming up with the full engineering design and cost estimate for the repairs. So it's more than just a study on what can be done. It's going to define what needs to be done.
CAO Williams.
Thank you. Just two things, through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Taylor's question. Also, that's the storm pond for the main storm pond for the town of Olds, where our stormwater heads. So it's a pretty important thing that will still continue to grow, and it's a wetland. So we can't do anything there without engineering studies. Essentially, Alberta Environment doesn't like when you do that. Not that I found out through practice. The second thing too, I believe this is just essentially a flow through money we've had for a lot of years and designated for this purpose, and we got lucky. We can spend it all on figuring out how much it's actually going to cost us. It is a necessary step. But I would say this is a service level discussion for council too. When it comes to animal services, we have like pet licenses, which we collect maybe $20,000 a year on annually. That's how much we spend on dog waste bags annually as well, is about $20,000. But perhaps for the dog park, we we focus on, fundraising, sponsorships, to make people aware that tax dollars, we're not covering ourselves based on, the service we're providing. That people, I think, have an assumption that dog licenses or cat licenses do pay for themselves, but when you add up just the cost of dog waste bags, it essentially eats up the entire revenue item we get annually from just licenses. Then you add the cost of mowing the dog park and plowing the dog park and mending the fences and trimming the trees and fighting the beavers. It's a tough job, but someone's got to do it. Yeah, I think there's opportunities here to have an honest conversation with people, and perhaps there's people, users of the dog park, who grants, societies that may want to partner and whatever this eventual erosion project's going to be, or other improvements at this facility. Yeah, that was just a comment. You don't have to respond to that at all.
All right. All right. Director Lindeman, you want to?
Yeah, take a thumbs up or down on that one. Okay. Next, our last item here was the sports fields revitalization. And that included a piece of equipment and fence repairs.
Any comments before? Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I guess similar, again, it's $50,000. If we had a split between the high-tech grass cutting machine and how much we would devote to structural repair and maintenance, fencing, I'm all for anything to do with the dugouts and the repair and fencing and bumpers on the fencing, if that's what it takes. I'm not so sure about the Verdi cutter tip blade lawnmower. Yeah, and the standard. I know what we're trying to accomplish with Rotary as an elite field, but if I had a little bit of information around that 50,000 and how much would be split between structural repair and the lawnmower, that would help my decision. Thank you.
I can certainly track down that information for you as well. I do have an answer to your previous question on the exterior stairs. 46.2 is what that one was, and hardwood decking 24.5.
Back to Director Lindeman, asking the question.
So do we have thoughts on the sports fields, or wait for those costs to come back? More information?
Okay.
So tomorrow we can look at those two specific items again.
Split them up. Good.
Perfect.
Right, back to you, Sale Williams. Okay, so
Thank you very much. So with that, administration is concluding its 2026 capital introduction. If any more questions, you can let us know right now, or we'll pick it up tomorrow morning. We'll be reconvening for operating with a couple things here, but email me. Yeah, 2:30 is better for me. I have other appointments, but yeah. Anything else before the mayor adjourns this evening? Okay. I have sent you an email and updated your budget folders with the presentations for tomorrow morning. Things you have seen already in large part, but we want to start it with more of a service level conversation, tying into divisional budgets, and then like today we'll get into the operating project sheets, but touching on a bit of capital as well. So again, anything between now and then, let us know. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Mayor Daley, back to you.
thank you very much. All right, so at 7:39, I adjourn the meeting and look forward to your bright, shiny faces tomorrow. All right, have a good evening, everyone.